Hi guys, Alley Cat here. So a new subscriber actually asked for me to do like a very intro video on sewing, how to thread the needle, how to do the bobbin, how to read instructions, stuff like that, because a lot of times when I'm editing my Sew With Me videos, I get frustrated and don't really put in words like on the screen all the time what I'm doing and what the instructions say, which I will make sure I'm doing better, but a lot of those videos are 5 to 10 hours of video that I condense down to a half hour, so we'll give it a go next time. But I'm just gonna do a intro video on like how to put the string on, how to thread the bobbin, how to wrap the bobbin. My machine is on the newer side, Project One Runway limited edition, and mine comes with 100 preset things here. And so just to start out, 0 and 1 are the ones that you use the most. They're just like a normal stitch. I like to use 1 because 0 makes a wider seam, and I don't really use big seams a lot in cosplay or in anything I do, so this gives me a smaller seam. 2 I only use if I want a reinforced stitch. 3 I'll use on the ends of fabrics that fray, like silk or tulle or something like that, so then you do it on the very edge of that fabric, and then you trim right by the seam there, and it stops it from fraying. 4 I'll do on things like elastic. It's just like a reinforced back and forth stitch. So unless it calls for it, usually the 2 you're going to use most are 1 and 2, and maybe 3. 4 I just use if I just want a reinforced back and forth stitch. It's kind of just a preference. But anyway, so the way that you would switch on this machine up here is like you pick what you want. So say I want to use number 3, you just go to 3, and then as you saw, the needle moves to where it needs to be for all the different stitches. So let's use number 4 as an example. So these 2 right here, this top one here is how far apart you want your stitches to be. I usually don't mess with this. It's not really, unless you want like shorter stitches. I don't know why you would really want longer stitches. But shorter stitches, I could see if you have a fabric that's hard to sew with or bunches up a lot. For silk, I've done shorter stitches, so you can make the stitches closer together. And then when you go back to the normal, it puts a circle around it. This I use a lot for 3 and 4. This is the width between the back and forth. So when you're making a zigzag, so like normally it'll be like this, but you can make them shorter together or you can make them farther apart. For my masks, in my mask video, I had a set that I liked for the noseband, so I just kind of played around with it until I found what I liked. So now going to putting the thread on. When you get the thread, there's not going to be these holes in here. And my thing actually like comes up like this, right? And then this is what you're going to put on the other side. But there's always a hole through the center of your string. So you can take this off if you want. I really just don't care. So just shove it through, and then there's a little tiny thing right there, the little lip where the string will be stuck in, and usually you just have to like claw it out with your fingers and get it out so that it's like this. But we put this on. This you want to put on the end so that it stays. So we're going to start with our bobbins. Now mine is really nice, and I have a bobbin threader. I have a bobbin threader, so I'll just show you the bobbin first. There's a hole right here that you're going to put the string through, and then there's one on the other side too. So it doesn't matter what end you put the bobbin on. If you have a bobbin threader, you just put it there. For mine, there's instructions here that show for the bobbin. So it's going to be the dashed lines. So you're going to go here and hook it, come here around the little hook, go backwards, up through, and every machine is different. I found out how to thread my bobbin by looking at the instructions. So you just gotta, so you put this through the little hole, and then you pull it. It's gonna be really long sometimes, so what I like to do is just cut it real close. I hold it until I know that it's firmly on there. So you push this over. This shows you how to put it in the bobbin. So you want to turn it so that it starts on the back side so that when it spins, it'll spin the right way and won't get stuck underneath. So then you put your foot on the pedal and it won't go unless it's pushed over. So if you have it here, it's just gonna be confused and be like, what are you doing? So you gotta push it over. Then I usually start slow and I'm holding, and then I let it go as I know that it's okay. And sometimes people ask me, how do you know when the bobbin's done? You will see, it just stops when it's completely full. And since I sew quite a bit, especially if I'm using the same color for a lot of stuff, I just let it go until it completely stops. Almost. Right there. So then you just cut it right here, push over, pull off, and that's your bobbin. So now to string this, there are 2 different spots that you have to string in order for this to work. And there's instructions here as well, but I also found this in the instruction book and it was much more detailed. But over here and over here are the instructions. So you still keep it in the loop, you bring it behind here, you bring it down, so I brought it down here. Then it goes under here, and you can see there's little numbered instructions too. So I believe 2 is right there, has an arrow. 3 goes up and around, and then there's a little hook in there. You hook it, and then you come down. And then mine does have a thread helper, but I found it to be very not reliable. So I just thread this myself. There's a little hole in the needle, and you just thread it through the needle and you pull. So then the second part of this is obviously we got to put the bobbin in. You want the bobbin to be so that the string is facing towards the outside of the machine and the string is away from you. So it's not towards you like this, it's not over here, it's not facing any other way but away from you. So on the back side of the bobbin towards the outside. So then you put this bobbin inside there, and then again, there's instructions on my machine. Not all machines will have it, but there's a little clasp right there. You put it in there, bring it up all the way around, and then there's actually a little tiny knife in there, and it clips your end. So then make sure you put the top back on. Sometimes I've forgotten. The bottom part is for the needle to go through the fabric, take this and thread it through the underneath part so that it actually makes a stitch. So that's why you gotta do both. So then you're all set, and obviously you would drop your foot in order to stitch anything, and then use your pedal. My pedal is really touchy, so the needle would just go. And it can go really slow, or it can go really, really fast. So, and then whenever you bring it up, obviously you pull it up, it'll go back into place. I guess I'm gonna have to fish out of here, but, and then you would cut off the excess, which you see me do in my videos a lot. I tend to pull it out really far because, as you just saw, my needle kind of sucks at keeping the string on when I pull it out. So the last thing I wanted to go through was what you would get in a kit, or a pattern kit. This is how I learned to sew. They're really helpful. The quick sew ones I find are really wordy, but this is the next pattern that I'm gonna be doing, which is for bags. So it comes obviously with the case, instructions, and your pieces. The pieces is what you're gonna cut out, and depending on the size that you want is how you're gonna cut them out. So you can see on here, this is the arrow of the way that you should put it on. So like say you have a pattern and there's like a top and a bottom, because this is the top. So bottom to top. Size small, size medium, size large, and then each of them has a number and how many of fabric you need to cut. So like this one is cut 2 of facing, cut to, this is just a fabric, and it'll tell you what kind of facing and stuff to use in the instructions. So in the instructions, this is probably the most helpful thing you get with the patterns. It tells you everything that you're gonna need to know. Oh, and when you buy these, it'll tell you on the back what all you need. So like the fabrics here, designed or woven fabrics, you can use cotton blends, denim, twill. This tells you all the stuff that you can use. And then the notions is like other stuff that's not fabric. So you need thread, a piece of stabilizer for the bottom, and then you need, it tells you the sizes that you would need for that stabilizer. And then here it tells you how much you will need for each size. So if you're buying the pattern and you need to buy the fabric too, you just look back here and say you want to make a large tote, you would need 1 1/4. I usually go up just so that I have some extra in case I mess up. So I would get 1 1/2 just because that's what I've always done. I've always just bought a little bit extra just to be safe. But yeah, so if you are wondering how to know what to buy, you just look on the back. But the instructions here are the most important thing. So here it shows you where to put it on a piece of fabric that's laid out like this and where you would put each piece to optimize how much space you're using for the pieces. And then it tells you how to cut them. It'll tell you how to best prepare the fabric depending on what you're using. Here's different layout codes, so like the small, large. It tells you where to fold the fabric. If you're using 60-inch wide or 45-inch wide. And then this is, I actually really like this pattern here because now I can show you what I use the zigzags for. So here they actually tell you in the instructions to do a finishing seam along the outside so that it doesn't fray when you turn the bag inside out. So that's that zigzag, that number 3 that I was talking about. And over here, you can see that they're doing finishing stitches there with the number 3 so that there's no frayed edges. Because sometimes with denim and twill and stuff like that, you'll get frayed edges, so they do that just in case. A lot of times they do recommend that you iron things before you sew them. I'm usually too lazy. I usually just struggle bust, but you're supposed to. It tells you about the seam allowances, recommended sewing procedures. You can read all this stuff beforehand, different markings and what they mean. But down here is usually what I look at before I go through the instructions. So this tells you when you're sewing them together, if you're looking at the right side, which means the side of the fabric that has the pattern that you want to be on the outside, or if you're looking at the wrong side, which is the side that is going to be on, like when you flip it, it's going to be on the inside of the bag. So like here you see they put the 2 wrong sides together and they're going to stitch them. So they're going to stitch them here together. And then they'll turn it inside out eventually to make the bag. And then it shows you where to stitch them, and the instructions are just very helpful. Like I said, quick sew is very wordy. I don't know why they're so wordy. I prefer the wording of Simplicity or McCall's over these quick sew ones, but they have really cute stuff that I can use a lot of my fabrics that I have from the pandemic on. So I've just been using the quick sews as of late. And usually when it's a quick sew, you can do it within a day. So if you want an easy project that you can do in a day that doesn't take a lot of effort, a quick sew would be a good way to start. But I just wanted to go through all the basics. It was asked of me. So there you go. That's everything you would find in here. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and you guys have a good day.